we're used to having all of this information in front of us and we're just accepting it at face value instead of, this seems a little bit weird, let me do some research on it. And I think for technicians in practice, our job is to follow the orders that the veterinarians have given us. And I love doing that. But I think not enough technicians understand why.
Sorry for saying Sorry Media presents the Purr Podcast, the best podcast for feline medicine and surgery with tips, tricks, and updates for the entire veterinary healthcare team. If you're dying to know more about cats, keep on listening. Here are your hosts, Dr. Susan Little, famous cat vet and textbook author, and Dr. Yola Kerpenstein, talented surgeon and social media geek.
Hello, this is the Purr Podcast, and this is Dr. Yola Kerpenstein.
And this is Dr. Susan Little.
Dr. Susan Little, where are we?
I think we're in Chicago.
Yes, you are allowed to say that. You are allowed to say that. We are in Chicago, and
Yes.
It's beautiful weather. The sun is shining, and we're at Chicago Vet, and we are very excited because we have some exciting guests.
We do, but there's actually a better reason why I'm excited.
Uh-oh.
No, it's a good reason. It's a good
Oysters?
reason. No, it's not oysters. No. It's because, okay, so what month is it? It's
May.
spring. It's spring, right? It's May, right?
May.
So where I live in Ottawa, spring comes very late. So it could still snow.
It's up in the north. Spring never comes.
So Chicago in the spring,
Yeah.
much pleasanter than where I live in the spring. I will go anywhere early in the season.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. So if you
It
want...
could still snow,
If you
you know.
want Dr. Susan to speak anywhere, just do it early
Especially
in the
early
year.
in the year.
Yeah. when
Yeah,
it's
unless
cold
unless you're
and
talking
frigid.
about a latitude or is it latitude or longitude? I forget which.
I think
Unless
it's latitude.
Longitude is like this, and
Oh,
latitude
okay.
is like
So
that.
unless you're talking about a latitude, as we're all, dear listeners, sketching with fingers in the air.
Yes.
So unless you're talking about a latitude more north than me, I will go almost anywhere early in the year because it's warmer. So anyway, that's why I'm happy, and it's a sunny day. And yes, we have an amazing guest.
Now, we do have an amazing guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. My name is Megan Brashear, and I'm a veterinary technician, and I am newly working at the Purdue University Veterinary Teaching Hospital, where
What
I get
does
to
newly
teach.
mean?
I have only been there since November.
No way.
Yes. So
Really?
I took,
We did not know that.
yes.
Breaking news.
Breaking news for everybody.
I
'Cause
spent
she-
almost 20 years in Portland and
Yeah.
then moved to the middle of
Wow.
Indiana.
Okay, so you need to explain that to me because, okay, Portland I can see is this free,
Yes.
open society.
Yes.
Lovely place.
You know, the woolen socks and, everybody
And the
happy.
coffee and
coffee
the-
and
yep.
everything. And now you're going to where?
West Lafayette, Indiana.
India. Oh, right.
I said that. People in Indiana said that. People in Portland said that. But I love it. It's been a really good move for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very happy in Indiana, and I never thought I would say
And that's
those
the
words.
Midwest, and I'm living in the Midwest too. And
You
I
do.
can, I can, because when I left Kansas a long time ago, I said I will never ever, and then I said a bad word, come back here. And then a couple of years later, I'm back, and as a matter of fact, I like it much better now than I used to do. One of the reasons is because it is so sunny and.
Yes. So to move from rain 8 months of the year to it snows, but then the sun comes out, and it's and the pace is different, and there's still good coffee and there's still good food, and I live in a college town, and there's a place that delivers fresh baked cookies until 3:00 in the morning, and it's not all terrible.
No.
There's a little pocket of, socially progressive. I was a little bit worried about moving to the Midwest, and it's just a really different culture
Yeah.
than the Pacific Northwest. And it really hasn't been that shocking to me.
So what do you do now? What's different about what you do now?
I'm doing a lot of the same kind of core job responsibilities. I'm the small animal veterinary nursing manager. And so I'm still managing technicians. I still get to work shifts in the hospital. But I get to spend more time with students. And so there's a veterinary program, obviously, and there's also a technician school there. So we have vet students and tech students in the hospital.
That's
and
awesome.
now there's just an endless supply of people to listen to my stories.
and new people.
Yes. So every 3 weeks they're new and they haven't heard my stories.
Exactly.
So,
you can keep on talking.
Yeah, that environment is just very supportive for what I like to do.
That's awesome.
And it's, I was in private practice for a long time. And then coming to university, just the pace is a little bit different and the focus is a little bit different. And it's a very supportive place for what I want to be doing.
Do you feel like you do more teaching than you did before?
It's a different kind of teaching. I have focused my career on teaching for a number of years now, but this is, this poor vet student we'd finished and discharged a patient, and she was trying to squeeze all the fluids out of the IV fluid bag into the sink before she threw the bag away. And she's standing there squeezing it and all the fluids are coming out that little port at the bottom. And I just walked up and I said, you can take your scissors and cut the corner off the bag and the fluids come out faster.
Okay, that sounds to me like a basic life skill, really.
But the look on her face was like, thank you so much. And she felt silly, but it's that type of, I think they're afraid to kind of step out. I mean, we just started the brand new students. They've been in their clinical year for a week now. And it's really kind of fun to get down to that level, to tell them, you can cut the corner off of that. It's going to be okay.
You can change her whole day with one little tip.
Exactly. And that's really what I enjoy doing, is just being there for all of that.
And before that, you were not in a veterinary school setting?
Correct. So I was in a corporate practice for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then before that, I was in a private, mostly ER ICU, had a couple other specialties. It wasn't like a giant every specialty hospital, but I've been in emergency since 2000.
And we'll talk about that a little later, but because you're also a very famous speaker.
I do enjoy lecturing, yes.
And you lecture everywhere. And just to give our listeners a little bit of background information, she is the person that wins every speaking award that is in the world. So wherever she goes, she wins an award.
I don't know about everywhere, but yes, it's very flattering.
So which one was 3 times in a row?
Twice, the VMX. Speaker
That's
of the Year.
awesome.
I won that one twice, yes.
And there's so many people competing for the same thing that I think that is just unbelievable.
It is, yes. And that those awards that are chosen by the audience, they mean a lot, because that's why we do this. That's why we lecture, is to reach out, and my hope is that people go home and have learned something. And so to have that award, and especially twice in a row, that's the best thing I have done. So you're going for it 3
times now, or?
I would not say no if they offered it again.
So I have to tell you a little story about the VMX Speaker Awards, because they give a small animal one, they give a technician program, there's a large animal. There's
Do they have a feline one?
No.
Tom Bone, you don't have a freaking
Tom,
feline.
if you're listening. Yeah.
I can't believe that, Tom.
Yeah. So my career apparently peaked in 2013. So I won a couple of awards in 2013. It's been downhill since then.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know
also
about
a tip.
that.
But I did win. So that was one of the awards I won in 2013. And I was just because I've been speaking for a long time, right? And it is an amazing feeling, right? So I won the Small Animal Speaker Award. And I remember talking, I'm pretty sure it was Mike Lappin. Mike, if I'm wrong, you can just cover your ears. But I think it was Mike Lappin. I said, I'm just so happy I won it this year. And he goes, oh, that's great. He says, I've got 5. And
no way.
And I thought,
Really?
That's quite an answer.
I might be wrong. I might be misquoting him, but he certainly had more than one. Well deserved, anyway. So it just shows you that there are people who are really good at what they do. It's the passion, I think.
It is.
Right? It's the passion that comes through.
I think so. I try to choose topics that I feel very strongly about. I learned early in my career that I can accept assignments for topics, but if I'm not excited about it, it's not going to go well. And anybody can stand up there and deliver information. Yeah. Anybody can read bullet points or summarize a book chapter, but I want to talk about things that I feel strongly about, or I've treated a patient with this disease, or I had this moment of, I totally understand how this works now, and I want to share it. And that's my whole goal. Is I struggled a lot at the beginning. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have a great training. I didn't have a lot of support, and veterinary medicine has changed a lot to allow that. But I just don't want anybody to go home and cry after work.
Yeah.
I don't want technicians to feel like they're not contributing to the medical care of their patients, and I want them to advocate for their patients and for themselves. And I just feel very strongly about what technicians can do and what they should be doing, and I want to help them do that through my lecturing.
So I have so many questions I want to ask you, but here's the first one, and that is, so you said there's things that really speak to your heart or to your passion that you are best to do, lectures or presentations on. And I totally get that. So what are those things for you? Like if you had a top 3 things that I really prefer to be asked to speak on, what would they be?
The first one for me is critical thinking. I think in our country that's maybe lacking a little bit right now. And
well, not just your country. It's I think none of us really are well taught.
Correct.
Critical thinking.
And we're used to having all of this information in front of us, and we're just accepting it at face value instead of, this seems a little bit weird, let me do some research on it. And I think for technicians in practice, our job is to follow the orders that the veterinarians have given us. And I love doing that. But I think not enough technicians understand why. They know how, and they often know the right answer. I can tell them, we think an animal has this disease process. What do you want to do next? And they know all the right drugs. But then when I go a step more, why? Why did we choose that? Why are they showing these signs? Why do we treat shock with these fluids? What's the difference between crystalloids and colloids? Just getting into all of that and understanding why. There's so many layers of understanding and being able to ask. I have the opportunity to work with interns and students and residents, and I want to be somebody who can make a suggestion and say, I understand what's happening. I want to take a patient that I'm working on and say, this patient is at risk for developing a coagulopathy. So I know what to look for. I know how to monitor an anemic patient and say, well, we might need to do blood now because this, and this has changed. So I really like to just run through case studies with technicians and really push them to think about the diseases that are happening and how they can alert the veterinarian to changes before something awful happens.
So that's one, critical thinking.
The second one is acid-base interpretation.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now, normally I would run screaming.
Yeah. You have a book.
And I am not alone in that, I don't think. So I bow down to you.
I found a method that just clicked in my head and made sense to me, and I love to talk about it.
You should patent that.
Yeah, you should.
Well, it came from a human nursing website, but I am spreading the word as much as I can.
Spreading the acid-base love.
Okay.
Yes,
I did not expect that.
I
number
know.
2, acid-base. Okay, what's number 3 now? I'm really excited.
The third one is not medical. I call it the art of nursing, and it's what it is all of the aspects of veterinary medicine that are not necessarily medical.
So softer things?
Some softer skills, some communication skills, but also some patient enrichment. Just thinking about, I've seen massive differences in cats when you put a box in there for them to hide in, or we'll put a towel over 3/4 of the kennel so that they have a safe space, and saying, maybe we shouldn't put this barking seizure dog next to this chronic renal failure cat. Like, they're very simple things, but I think when you're young in your career, you are not thinking about those types of things. You're very concerned about the medicine and did I do the calculations right? And that's okay. But as I've gotten farther in my career, these are the types of things that we can think about that are going to help our patients beyond medications that we're giving.
Oh, I love that.
I'm really happy to I have a million pictures of here's how to make these guys more comfortable. And it's people, I hope, get a lot out of it.
I love that idea.
And that's awesome. And I was at your lecture this morning. So, and you did that together with 3 other people, which was this is the first time I saw 4 people talk at the same time. Although you didn't really talk at the same time, but it was really good to see all those different, from different standpoints, how people think about things. But one thing that I took away from that is the lady at the end that said, this is the first lecture that I got so much out of it that I can apply to myself, which I loved. That was a very nice and touching moment. When
she meant apply to herself personally more so. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow. You don't hear that very often.
Yeah, we learn a lot about, the patients, and you have to do this and all these steps, but very little about how you can help yourself. And I know Eric talked about Unplugged. You talked about being positive. I mean, there were multiple topics that lent itself to either say, whatever, or really take it to your heart and then do something with it. And I think that's amazing. So I really like the way you take examples of your own or of others and then place them in perspective, which you did a wonderful job.
Thank you. I am fond of saying I make a lot of mistakes, but hopefully not the same mistake twice. And I think we need to take those mistakes and learn from them. And I am okay taking mistakes that I've made and helping you learn from them so you don't have to go through it. And I did that for many years with the medicine, and I can still talk about all the medicine mistakes that I made because it happens, but we're not perfectionists. And I've been a very negative person. I've been very unhappy at work. I've been very judgy of clients. I've done things and I've learned from that. And I think it takes a specific personality to be able to navigate specialty medicine for 20 years. And it's amazing. I love what I do every single day. And that doesn't mean that I don't have hard days, but I have to be able to learn from what I did that didn't work so that I can continue to do this.
I think it's important that there are people like yourself and others that are willing to stand up and say, I've made mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's a fact of life. And hiding you can't hide it. You shouldn't hide. It's not healthy to hide it, for one thing. Yeah. So I think it's good when people who are speakers or have some respect in the community will stand up and say, yeah, I've done this, but here's what I've learned from it. And here's how you don't make that mistake yourself.
Yes.
Right. That openness. Hopefully not. If you start your career thinking you're never going to make a mistake, you're going to be very disappointed.
And just crushed when you make that mistake and think nobody else is doing this. I think that's really important too, that, I remember idolizing speakers that I'm still embarrassed to meet people that oh my goodness, that person is famous and they know everything. And you just put them on this pedestal and think they know everything. They're so smart. They do everything right. And it's not true.
No.
That's how I felt about Susan when I first met her.
And now that's been shattered. Is that what you're saying?
And now the myth is totally shattered.
Now I know it a lot better. No, but it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
True.
And I think it's being able to talk about these things already helps you.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's very cathartic for me to be able to kind of share that and say, this is the path that I took to get here. And I see a lot of nodding heads. I think a lot of people are just realizing that you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. And this is how you get up and show up the next day and keep going.
So there's a phrase that I like. Perfect is the enemy of good.
Oh,
right. So
I like that.
I did not coin it. I don't know where it comes from, but by any means. But it means if you're constantly striving for perfection, you won't be able to be good. And most of the time, you just need to be good, right? You can't be perfect all the time, and most of the time, you don't need to be perfect. You need to be good. So it's better to be consistently good.
Yeah. Why are we afraid of good?
It's a pressure we put on ourselves.
Yes, it's true, but we need to. I think just as a people, not necessarily even just veterinary medicine, but as a collective society, just need to say it's okay to get up and have done your best. And just as long as you're learning from what's not going right, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to switch topics a little bit because what you said about judging people. And you work in emergency critical care, and you gave the really cool example. And I've done it myself too. So I confess right now about these cases that that kind of are at the end. And that you're wondering, why are people waiting so long to make this stupid decision? You're like, come on, guys, let's just do it.
How do you not understand that this is not going to get better? We've told you point blank.
I know.
We can't fix this.
Over and over.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's easy to be judgmental of those people, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is really hard. And I struggled a lot with that, and I carried a lot of anger around with me. And I would dread going to work knowing that case was going to be there and we were just going to have to do it. And, we're dragging this animal through treatments and, they're not getting any better. And the owners stopped visiting because they're having a hard time seeing their pet like that. And how do we not be angry at those people for doing that? And it's harder, but at the same time, it's easier to just let that go, and just not try to, I can't be responsible for the decisions they make.
Yeah. You can't take that on board all for yourself. I think the same applies to, we all see people who have brought an animal in when we consider it's later than it should have been.
Yes.
So one of the things that I've learned over the years is you don't know what's going on in that person's life.
Absolutely.
You have not walked in their shoes. You don't know what's going on at home. You don't know what's going on in their job. You don't know what's going on in their own health. You just don't know. And because we don't know, you have to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yes. I have a phrase
that yourself, right?
that I say this over and over to myself, and it is assume good intent.
Yeah.
That when somebody brings in an emaciated, urine scald, hasn't eaten for 4 days, and, we are why I can't believe they didn't do anything about it. They let this go on. They're doing the best they can, and at least they brought the pet in. Yeah. Even if it takes its agonal breath as we are trying to euthanize it, they came in wanting to do the best. Yeah. And if I can convince myself of that, then I no longer carry around that anger, that guilt, that just...
Yeah. And because it's a useless emotion, isn't it? And it's just it's
you
useless.
Can't do anything
with it. And it's damaging.
Yeah.
It's damaging. Yeah.
You just hang on to it and it eats away at you.
I think before we move on, I think the other thing that's helped is we're seeing a rise and a focus, more interest on palliative care. Mm-hmm. So switching, so maybe those owners that are really struggling with the end of life decisions, maybe for some of them, it's going to be easier to say, let's move to palliative care. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just need an interim step. Right. Yeah. And we have a long way to go in terms of learning what to do and how to do that. But it's certainly happening. We've had Mary Gardner of Lap of Love and Sheila Robertson from Lap of Love on our podcast, awesome. who are really just revolutionizing that whole area.
Let's talk about getting oxygen at home for your pet. Let's talk about, because I think that does help. I think they need to see it as a technician, as we struggle with these animals in the hospital. It's hard for owners to see how the pet is doing. They come visit for a few minutes, but if they go home and they're in an oxygen kennel
exactly. Gets a stimuli, suddenly it perks up and they said, oh, it's not doing that bad. Well, we are looking at this pet being flat out. Most of the day, so.
And not that I want to have owners struggle through that at home, but I think it just helps them understand. And we say, this is the best that we are doing. And I love it when animals are able to go home and spend even 6 hours with their family before their life ends. That, let's focus on that. How can we make them comfortable? Not how can we fix them, but how can we make them comfortable?
Yeah. I think we need to put more emphasis on that. That's something I really appreciate developing in veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Megan, this was wonderful.
Thank
you.
Is
part 1 of 2 parts that we'll be talking to you. And like I said, we'd like to keep these things around 25 minutes, 25 minutes. So we're so excited. We'll have you back in 2 weeks.
Yes! Megan times 2.
Yay!
I know.
Can't wait.
Her second award, her podcast award is next week. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Susan Little is a feline medicine specialist with 2 cat-only hospitals in Ottawa, Canada. She is best known as an international speaker and as the author and editor of 2 textbooks, The Cat, Clinical Medicine and Management, and August, Consultations in Feline Internal Medicine. Along with 3 cats, she also admits to owning 2 dogs, and you can follow her on social media with the handle @CatVetSusan. Dr. Yola Kirpenstein is a diplomat of the American and European College of Veterinary Surgeons and a big cat fan. His specialties range from surgical oncology and reconstruction to minimally invasive surgery. He is the author of 2 textbooks on basic and reconstructive surgery. Did you know he was allergic to cats? Yola works currently at Hill's Pet Nutrition. You can follow him on social media with the handle @GVETSX. The opinions of this podcast are those by Dr. Susan Veterinary medicine is a complex profession, and often there are multiple diagnostic and therapeutic options for different disease processes. If you're a pet owner with questions, please go to your local veterinarian. If you're a veterinary professional, ask your questions on our Instagram page @PurPodcast.